let's take a quick look at another viewer's question we received. It's from Simon in Alberton, and he asked the question, my new company offers disability benefits. Do I keep my existing policy? Now, to my mind, there's a number of questions that need to come up around here in terms of overinsurance and potentially getting rid of something that you might want further down the line. But Raylan, just quickly from your point of view, what would a tip for him be?
The tip would be, first of all, to speak to an advisor. What needs to be taken into consideration is that depending on which insurance companies he has the cover with his employer as well as with his personal policy, would depend on the amounts that they would actually pay out in the event of a claim. Now, there's a thing called aggregation that the insurance companies look at, and that's really just taking into consideration all the cover that you have, capital, disability, as well as income protection across all spectrums in terms of the insurance markets. So let's say, for example, you have a policy with a specific company and you're now insured at your maximum amount. By taking out an insurance policy with another company does not mean that you're going to put yourself into a better position after a disability claim, because the two insurance companies will talk to each other, will discuss what the maximum amount is that you are allowed to claim and reimburse yourself effectively as a capital amount and an income replacement. And effectively, they could reduce your payments to pay you out what you should have been paid rather than what you were overinsured for. So it's very important to rather have a look at it in detail. Obviously, we don't have any details from this gentleman with regards to how much cover he already has or how much cover he actually needs. Another thing, though, that needs to just be taken into consideration is that very often with employer benefits, when the company is actually offering benefits such as disability cover, very often it's based on pensionable income. Now, the pensionable income could be less than 100% of your cost to company. Let's say, for example, a person was on an 80% pensionable income. What would happen is that generally the disability benefit could be linked to that 80% of income, which means effectively that he's going to be underinsured for that 20% amount that is not on the product with his company. So in that situation, it would be important to have a look at both benefits, see what he's got, see what he needs, and what the maximum amount is that he can have. And based on that, he would obviously be able to get the right advice.
I think the key thing that came out of that was really around aggregation, and that's what got me ears pricked up. Ryan, I'll pick on you because I know you're a numbers man. When it comes to aggregation and specifically on disability cover, what is it that the companies, or rather the underwriters, are looking for from that point of view?
The underwriters will take into account all the cover that you have. So it's required on the application form that you disclose the cover that you have. That'll be the capital disability, the disability income benefits that are already in place, what group benefits you have. All those benefits need to be disclosed. And they will also do a check on the register of life policies to see what cover's in place for that individual. They will also take into account potentially benefits like impairment. Where impairment benefits have a significant amount of disability cover in them, some consideration will be brought into bringing that part of the cover into the aggregation consideration. It's important to see that aggregation is done at the time of underwriting. As Raylan says, rather have the certainty of knowing what cover you've got at the point that the policy is written, rather than relying on some claim aggregation where you don't know what you're going to get. But from an aggregation point of view, if I had to bring it to a practical level, if I had to then ask, okay, I earn 10,000 Rand a month, what are you willing to give me from a capital disability or income benefit? Is it that you're looking for not more than what I'm currently receiving? Will you allow a little bit more just to take into account what we spoke about in terms of lifestyle adjustments? Where's it going to end up? I know it's a case-by-case basis, but let's get a broad idea here. The idea is to convert all the benefits to an equivalent income benefit, and the underwriters use a series of factors to be able to convert lump sum benefits into income benefits. They then total those up to see what that is compared to what you're earning, and then make a decision as to whether the cover is acceptable or not.
The other thing I wanted to pick up, if for example now we had the situation where the individual was overinsured, they got rid of their insurance. Now they need to potentially reclaim it back when they leave or start their own business company and the like. It leads me on to the question of lapses. Okay, and rather people getting rid of their life insurance. We came out last year, we entered and exited a recession in 1 year, and many people started to trim the fat. And often what we see is the first thing to go is life and disability type products. Now, what is the danger of that kind of a move?
I think probably the biggest danger of that is if it's done on an uninformed basis. One might be getting rid of benefits that may be still appropriate to you, and if the time comes at a later stage that you're in a position to reapply for those benefits, your circumstances, your health circumstances may have changed to the extent that you don't qualify for them at the same level as you previously had. So I think the idea of cancelling benefits, I think in certain circumstances where the financial planning process suggests that it is appropriate, it's something that one may need to consider. But I think for consumers out there, I think they need to be very careful before they do so and make sure that they only do so in appropriate circumstances.
Just coming back to something that we said, well, really the question is, I'm not sure when it would be appropriate for someone to do that. Obviously cash flow is a major determinant, but surely the question of health has to really play a factor in terms of if I'm going to get rid of something and my health deteriorates drastically, I could be in a position where I could not reclaim that type of cover, right?
That is a significant risk that the policyholder would face. But the decision is really made through the advice process. So they need to consider everything that they have in place. And for example, cash flow issues might be particularly important to them and have to deal with those. But cancellation needs to go through thorough advice to make sure that they actually are dealing with the policies appropriately. The risk of not being able to get cover once you've suffered perhaps some deterioration in your health is large. Although there are providers who make cover available to people who have impaired health, such as Ultrisk, but the cost of that cover might be excessive.
Might increase. So you may have actually sort of cost yourself more in the long run. Yeah. I think you picked it up right in the beginning there, Roland. It's about sitting down with someone who's qualified to be able to navigate through with you what those options are. Because for many people, the option of keeping their life cover and the disability is not even a question because they've lost their job.
Yeah. Another way to actually look at it as well is not necessarily to cancel the full amounts of cover. What an advisor could do is sit with an individual, go through everything in detail, see what their specific needs are, and really look at, as you say, trimming the fat, but being in a situation where they keep a portion of life and disability benefits in place for the absolute worst case scenarios. Now, obviously, that person wouldn't be fully insured, but there are products on the market that you could insure yourself for a lesser amount, and then in the event of a permanent disability, it can upgrade to 100% of income. So that kind of advice would be better for a person rather than cancelling a product completely. Another way as well is also buying a future option as well in terms of your capital disability benefit. Some companies offer that product, which means that you get underwritten at the point of taking out the policy. And then you have options each year to be able to increase that cover as you need it. So that type of benefit could also come into consideration when looking at a capital event. Another thing I also want to just highlight is that if you have a product with an employer, such as an employee benefits as such, like a disability or life cover benefits, most companies that have those products in place have a continuation option on those benefits as well. Now, even if it's a situation where the person's health has deteriorated, they would have a continuation option, which means they can carry out that policy in their own individual name and actually continue with it in their own name with no underwriting at that point in time, because that insurance company already carries the risk for that person. So if people do leave their company or their current employment and they have employee benefits, my advice is always speak to a financial advisor and make sure that you get that done within 30 days of leaving the company. Otherwise, that option will fall away and you might not be able to take up that cover at a later stage.
Okay. I think a lot of factors to consider and all important ones. I think the key is whatever you do, make sure that it's informed decisions.